Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video in which I have the latest installment of the McGrath Labs holiday collection. I did pick up all three eyeshadow quads as well as the highlighter, and I wanted to share them with you. Before we get into the video, if you're new here, I'm Yori. Thanks for joining me for today's video. I hope you're going to enjoy it and find it helpful if you were looking at this collection, and maybe consider subscribing so you can catch me for a future video. Thank you to the first 5 commenters on my last video. I really appreciate your showing my channel lab love. Those that have YouTube channels will be indicated by the YouTube logo and will be linked in the description box in case you're looking for some fun new channels to watch. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and get into this video. I purchased the collection from the McGrath website. I specifically did so because one of the quads was not going to be available on Sephora based on what I was seeing on the Sephora app at that point in time. And also on the McGrath website, they had a bundle price as well as a 10% off. So I did go ahead and pick up the collection from there as well as the highlighter, and I used the 10% off coupon. So I'll go ahead and let you know how much I paid. Basically, the highlighter was $65 and the eyeshadow quad trio was $148. Doing the math, it comes to $44.40 per quad, and the highlighter would be $58.50. Now, if you were wondering if you were going to be missing out by picking up from Sephora, it's really not the case. Each eyeshadow quad with the 20% off, if you happen to be a VIB Rouge, then that would be $46. So about $2 difference, and then you get the security of being able to order from Sephora, and it's easier to return to Sephora if you don't enjoy a specific product. So even though I had a good experience with the McGrath website, if you decided to wait for the Sephora sale or just order from Sephora specifically, then I think you're doing fine as well. Let's go ahead and start with the highlighter so then we can get into the details of the eyeshadow palette. The highlighter retails for $65, as I mentioned. It has a 12-month shelf life. It was made in Taiwan, and you get 6.5 grams of product. So this is the Skin Fetish Sublime Skin Highlighter, and it is in the shade Champagne Gold. The outer packaging looks very much like the eyeshadow palette, the Mega Eyeshadow Palette, which was my previous video. If you want to check that out, I'll link it up in the cards. And it's very nice, secure packaging with that fold-out sleeve. However, when you open up the actual highlighter, this is what it looks like. I was shocked when I held this in my hands. It is so heavy. It feels like a hockey puck. You can hurt someone with this or break something if you drop it. It's really, truly beautiful. On the back side, there is a sticker with the information about the product as well. And the way that you open it up is with a screw top. And here's what the shade looks like. Very, very beautiful pattern. That's what it looks like. I'll insert close-ups so that you can see. It is so beautiful. I swear most of the price of this highlighter had to come from the packaging. It's really, really, really luxe. Like, I think I haven't been this impressed since I opened up one of the McGrath mothership eyeshadow palettes. It's truly beautiful. Now I want to insert some swatches of the highlighter. I'm going to compare it to a couple of popular highlighters that we can use for reference. The first swatch you'll be seeing is going to be the McGrath highlighter. Next to that, you'll be seeing Anastasia Beverly Hills Emrezi, followed by Benefit Cookie. After that, I wanted to compare it to some more recently released highlighters. So you're going to have the Charlotte Tilbury Superstar Glow highlighter, followed by the Marc Jacobs highlighter in the shade Guilty, which is a re-promo, but that is the one that's going to be sold in that cherry packaging. And lastly, you're going to have Natasha Denona's latest highlight, which is the I Need a Nude highlighter. Hopefully you can see from the swatches that this one really veers very much on the pink side as compared to the other highlighters that I compared it to. It really has a greater pink shift, and it is the highlighter that I'm wearing today. Let's go ahead and get into the 3 eyeshadow quads. Let's talk about the one that is unique to the McGrath website. That one is called the Celestial Divinity Luxe Quad in Fleur Fantasia. This one has a lavender theme, which is very reminiscent of the shades that are inside. Now, these specific quads are made in the United States. They have a 12-month shelf life, and each specific shade is going to be 2 grams of product. The interior packaging is very reminiscent of the larger mothership palettes. It's that very heavy packaging, very beautiful. On the back side, there is a sticker, and that one does give you the name of the shades as well as the name of the palette. So that is a new addition to the way that she's finishing her eyeshadow palettes, and something I really enjoy. When you open it up, you have a really nice mirror. This mirror is not beveled like the large mothership palettes, and here are your shades. This is the lighter of the quads, and again, the one that is available specifically on the McGrath website. I'm going to show you some swatches of this quad, and you're going to see that the top 2 shades are very very shimmery iridescent kind of shades. And then you have one that's going to be a little bit of a duochrome shimmer. And lastly, you're going to have a matte. Very beautiful shades. I'll show you a look to see how this palette applies on the eyes towards the middle of the video. Let's look at the Interstellar Icon palette next. This one is also made in the USA, also 12-month shelf life, also 2 grams of product per quad. This is what the outer packaging looks like. This one has a blue motif and it's going to be reminiscent of the palette itself. So here you have that little quad on the back side. You have a similar sticker with those shade names as well as the information on the palette. And here's what this quad looks like. This is the one quad that doesn't have any matte shades. You're going to have 3 metallic shades where the blue one has a little bit of a purple shift, and then this deeper shade is actually more of a satin finish. I'm gonna go ahead and show you some swatches of this palette. The shimmers in these metallic shades are very sophisticated, and I was actually pleasantly surprised with the eye look that I created with this one. Last but not least, we have the Risque Rose palette, and this one, interestingly enough, has a 24-month shelf life, which is different than the others. I'm not exactly sure what the reason for that is, but I didn't go through one by one and identify all the ingredients, but it must have something to do with that. This one was also made in Italy as opposed to the others that were made in the USA, and this one you get a slightly less amount of product. You're getting 1.72 grams of product per shade. So this one is a little bit different than the others. This one has a pink motif in the packaging, which is also reflected on the inner package. And here you have the Risque Rose palette. Same outer packaging, same label on the back, and this is what it looks like on the inside. When I was swatching the palettes, I have to say that I was really taken with that silver shade. When you look at it in the pan, you can tell that it has pink, silver, purple shimmers in it, but it isn't until you swatch it that you truly begin to appreciate the beauty of that specific shade. None of these quads have those special shades like the astral shades that she has in the Mothership palettes, but each palette does have a shade that is special in and of itself, whether it be sophisticated metallics like Interstellar Icon, or it be pastel iridescence like Fleur Fantasia, or if it's that shifty metallic shade, which is called Lavendering. It's a really interesting name for it in this specific palette. So when I was swatching them all, I knew this was the one that I wanted to create my eye look from, and this is the palette that I'm wearing on my eyes right now. Now I'm going to show you how I created this look in detail, but before I get into that, I'm going to show you just a basic simple look with each of the other 2 palettes so that you can get some idea of how these shadows perform, and after that I will come back and share some final thoughts about the palettes. I'm going to create a couple of just basic looks so that you can get the idea of how each of the different palettes perform, and I'm going to save the most intriguing one to do my completed look. So I'm going to start out with the Fleur Fantasia quad. Incidentally, this is the one that is not available on the Sephora website. This one swatches beautifully, but I was wondering if it was even going to show up on my skin tone. I'm going in with the Lotus Paradise shade, which is the light matte, and I did prime my eyes using Urban Decay's eyeshadow primer potion. I was using Fenty Beauties when I did the Mothership Mega palette, but I wasn't liking how the shadows were sticking to that one. See, with my Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion, even when it's not set, I apply just a tiny bit and I feel like my shadows blend a lot more smoothly over it. So as you can see, this is a very, very light pinky peach shade, and it is showing up on my skin tone, but it is very, very light. It will be a really nice complement to other Pat McGrath palettes though, because her mattes have a tendency to be very deep or mid-tone, and she doesn't have that many really light ones, and I like having these kinds of shades for transitions. It applied beautifully, very creamy and smooth. I like how that's looking. I'm going to go ahead and run that same shade underneath the eye. Now, of course, you can see my dark under eye circle since I don't have any concealer or anything like that. But again, I'm just trying to give you a basic impression of how the different eyeshadows perform so that you can make a decision on which one is appealing to you most. I'm going to go in with the lavender blue shade now, and I'm going to apply that one all over the lid. It has a really pretty iridescence to it, and it's actually applying really nicely even with a brush. I'm surprised at how smoothly it's going on actually. I kind of expected to have it a little bit more powdery, but it's applying really nicely. Let's apply a little bit more on my fingertip. You can see how pretty that one applies. I am going to go ahead and add a little bit more of that blending shade just along my eye socket. I don't do this along my crease because you all know I would be then like working down here. So I usually go above. This is a pretty look by itself, but of course I want to use more colors. I'm going to go into that champagne shade, which is called Utopia, and I'm going to apply this on the inner corner. Now, when I was working with my fingertip, I did get a little bit in my inner corner, but it's layering really nicely, and it's like a peachy champagne shade. And I'm going to stretch this one underneath the lower lash line as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little bit of Iridescent Orchid, and I'm going to go in on my fingertip as well. And I'm going to apply this right in the center of my lid, kind of transitioning into the outer crease. It's a very pretty soft look. This one has a little bit more fallout. I'm going to apply a little bit more of the lavender blue shade to make sure that I still hold on to that color. Let's see if we can get some of that fuchsia shade on the lower lash line. It does translate using a flat definer brush. And again, I'm just playing a little bit to get an idea of how the different shades perform. With such a light colored eye, I would definitely want to make sure that I get plenty of sleep. I'm gonna go ahead and add mascara. So that's a simple look with Fleur Fantasia. I did apply a little bit of purple liner to the waterline and mascara to the top and bottom lashes. Let's move on to the next quad. This one is Interstellar Icon, and it is the only one that does not have any mattes in the included shades. So there are 3 shimmer shades and 1 what I would call a satin shade, and that's the one I'm going to use in my outer crease. So I'm going to go pretty basic with this look, and I'm going to use the neutrals on my lid, and I will be using the blue shade underneath the lower lash line to create a look with these. Because that satin shade is pretty deep, I'm using a fluffier brush, and I'm going to focus this directly on the outer corner. And then once I have most of the color deposited, I'm going to go ahead and run that along my natural crease. So this time I'm not going as high with the colors. I actually forgot to apply my eyeshadow base to this one. I literally put my eyeshadow base right when I'm gonna do my eyeshadow, and I was so anxious I went ahead and I started without it, and I can already tell a difference with how the shades apply. It's just my eyes are really difficult to work with, and I really benefit from using an eyeshadow base. So that was the shade Divine Dahlia, and now I'm going to use the shade Golden Polaris, and I'm going to use that on the inner corner of my eye. This one is applying quite sheerly, but I'll go in and work with my fingertips as well. This one has a really nice neutral vibe to it. And then for the center of my lid, I'm going to use that shade, which is called Blue Blood. This is a super rich, kind of smoky eye. It's very sophisticated and glam. I really like the way that it looks. It looks so, so pretty. You could definitely run that shade along the lower lash line with a little bit of this in the inner corner, and it would be so beautiful without even using that blue. But because I want to show you all the colors, I am going to go ahead and use the blue. The blue is called Hypnotic. It's actually sticking quite nicely on my lower lash line, and I'm not getting a lot of fallout either. Now I'm just going to intensify Golden Polaris on the inner corner, and I'm going to give it a final blend across the top. I'm so surprised at how much I like the neutral shades in this little quad. Beautiful. I was so captivated with the bronzy tones that I actually finished it with a bronzy eyeliner. This is one by Milk Makeup that I got in a BoxyCharm, and I finished it with Lancome Monsieur Big Mascara, and that is what the eye looks like. I love the bronzy tones of this eye, and the shimmer is sophisticated. It's not something that's drawing attention to the imperfections of my eyelid, and even though I forgot to put eyeshadow primer, I think it looks pretty good, and the blue gives a really nice pop of color. But I think if I were to repeat the look, I would do it without it, just because I think it's so sophisticated. My Lisa Eldridge lipsticks are arriving tomorrow. I might do a look kind of like this to do lip swatches, because it's always really nice to have a neutral lip. But let me know what you think so far. On this side, we have the Interstellar Icon palette. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this off and do a look with the final palette. Okay, so the time has come to play with the final quad. This one is called Risque Rose, and we're going to create a little bit of a Neapolitan makeup look. As you can see, my eyes are really red. This is why I rarely will do my makeup more than once in one day, because my eyes are so sensitive and they're like that from me washing away eyeliner in my waterline. So it's crazy. So I'm gonna start this look with a little bit of the Rose Rebellion shade, which is that bright fuchsia color, and I'm going to apply that on my inner corner. It's a little bit of a halo eye style, since I did kind of every other kind of style. I did a smoky eye, and then I did a pop of color on the lower lash line. So now we're gonna do a halo eye. There's only so many types of shapes you can do, and as you can see, I'm just kind of packing this color on the inner corner, keeping it relatively low and trying to keep the center part of my lid a little bit blank, because the shade that we're going to apply in the middle, wow, it's beautiful. It actually transforms anything that's underneath it. So I want it to kind of overlap a little bit with the pink, a little bit with the brown, and then have a space of its own to shine. So for that reason, I'm kind of keeping this pink shade really close to the inner corner. Next, we're going to go into that brown. This one is called Life on Mars, and that one is going to go in the outer corner. And I'm going to use the same strategy where I'm going to keep it pretty far on the outer corner, so that again I have a little bit of room for overlap, but I also leave a space blank in the center. This one I'm going to bring a little bit higher than the pink, just because I always like to give my eyes a little bit of a lifted look. Although the other day, I haven't edited that video yet, but I created a look that was more rounded, and it was really interesting. I like the color story that I used, and so I'll be sharing that soon. So as you can see, I'm kind of blending that upward, trying to create the shape. I do want a lot of depth in the outer corner, so I'm just tapping and packing the product on the outer third. Now to me, this shade is brown, but it has kind of an aubergine feel to it as well. Now I'm gonna go ahead and go into that metallic shade, which is the whole reason why I decided to work with this palette in the first place. And I'm going to apply it with a brush, but you'll see that eventually I'm going to just apply it with my finger, and I find that I get the best result that way, because with the brush, as you can see, it's really sheer. I could of course apply glitter glue and modify the shade that way, but I really want you to see how it performs without any additional assistance. Now I could go on and on and on, and eventually I would be able to pack it on using just the brush. There's really no need for that when I can quickly use my finger and achieve the same effect. So what I want you to notice is how the shade is going to transform over the pink as well as over the aubergine shade. It's so hard to describe. I think the colors in the palette were chosen like perfectly. See how there it's getting a pink shift, and over here it looks more purple. Now there are pink and purple shimmers in this shimmery shade anyway, but it was just paired so cleverly with the other shades in the palette. Oh, that's so pretty. So pretty. The minute I swatched this shade, I knew that this was gonna have to be the palette that I demoed and I did my look for the video with. So beautiful. It really would truly transform any shade that you put it on top of. And if, as you can see, like right in the center, it has more of a silvery vibe, but you can still see the pink and purple shimmers. So at this point, what I did was re-intensify the inner and outer corner and allow for a little bit more of that overlap. And then that's when I started blending just a little bit more. I'm using the tiniest amount of pressure on this brush. But yeah, overall, this look really reminded me of Neapolitan ice cream. I'm going to intensify the outer corner and again, kind of add a little bit more to that blend. I have it a little bit wider on this side, so I'm gonna go ahead and correct that as well. I'm not being too neat with this application either, so you can see how it kind of overlaps. So beautiful. I love it. Now, because I did want to showcase every shade in the palette, I'm going to go ahead and use this one, which is Mink. Actually, I was calling this Life on Mars. This is Mink Noir. This one is Life on Mars. So that's the one I'm going to use on the inner corner. Goodness. And you're going to see it's going to adopt kind of a pink color, but that is because of the Rose Rebellion shade that's right next to it, kind of blending with it and giving it a little bit more of a pink hue. Either way, I think it's really pretty, and I do think it suits this look. So as you can see on the finished eye, I created a very small wing. I did that with my Revolution eyeliner pen. And I also used, again, Monsieur Big mascara. And I'm not sure if I'm going to apply falsies because after removing mascara once, my lashes don't look the best, but we'll see. I'll make that call once I do the lower lash line, but this is where we are so far. I will be right back for us to work on the lower lash line once I have completed my face makeup. All right, so I made it back, and as you can see, I completed the rest of my face makeup. The eye situation did not improve at all. It was just difficult for me to remove the eyeliner, so I was putting Q-tips with micellar water, and my eyes are just too sensitive. This one is even watering and kind of ruining the eyeshadow on that side, so just keep that in mind and kind of focus on this eye, which is my good eye. It's been a while since my eyes have given me this trouble, but again, I don't typically do my makeup 2 or 3 times in one day. So this is what the eyeshadow looks like. I decided not to put anything on the lower lash line again because of the eye irritation. So I just brought the inner corner highlight a little bit down on the lower lash line. I used an inner waterline brightener from NARS and lower lash mascara, and I just decided to leave the look like this. It's so pretty on my upper lids that hopefully you get an idea of how the shades perform anyway. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing those demos, and it gives you some idea of how the eyeshadow palettes are going to perform. So let's go through them one by one, starting with Fleur Fantasia. This is my least favorite of the 3 because I find that on my skin tone, it is really, really pale. And as you could tell, it really emphasized any redness that I had in my eyes. There's really not much to deepen it out, but it would be a really nice pairing palette as the iridescent shades are really, really beautiful. I also really enjoy the matte in this palette because I like to have those lighter colored mattes in the Pat McGrath formula because most of her palettes really have more mid-tone to deeper mattes, and so it's nice to have something light like this one. It would make a beautiful one shade look. This one also with just a little bit of the Iridescent Orchid shade over top would be a really pretty and simple eye look as well. However, all that being said, despite this being the palette that made me order from the Pat McGrath website to begin with, it is my least favorite of the 3. My second favorite has to be Interstellar Icon. Now, this palette, what really got me were the sophistication of these neutral shades that you see here. If you saw the look that I created just on the upper eyelid without the pop of blue, it was so beautiful, elegant, neutral, but yet still special because of the shimmer. I absolutely loved it. It really surprised me because I thought that this was going to be the one I would like the least. And if I'm honest with myself, I'm not going to be wearing a look like I'm wearing right now every single day. And so it is quite likely that I would get more use out of this palette. So if you were looking for one of the quads that you were going to use the most, then this will probably be the best option for you. Again, that's Interstellar Icon. Now, my personal favorite of the 3 is going to be Risque Rose. And that was really surprising to me. Again, basing it just on that shade. Again, it's not a traditional special shade from Pat McGrath, but it is special in and of itself. I think it's beautiful the way that it transforms based on what's underneath it, or if you apply it over a bare lid. It's a really unique shade, and I'm so happy to have it in my collection. If she released that in one of her little single eye dolls, I would definitely grab it. There's something really special about that, and it was paired so nicely with the other shades in the palette because it really draws the shimmers in that shade, the lavender shade. So if you want to be a little bit more daring or a little bit more experimental in your selections, this would be the palette that I would definitely grab. I think it's the one that's going to add the most variety to an already existing extensive eyeshadow collection. It's not going to be a palette that you already have in your collection, but again, if you're looking for something that you're going to use more frequently, then probably this color story wouldn't be it. My thoughts on the highlighter, I'm going to insert some clips of me applying it, and to be perfectly honest, it's not that intense of a highlighter because of its tone. Because it pulls a little bit pink, it blends a lot with my blush, especially since I'm wearing a more pink blush. I'm wearing one of the Wayne Goss duos in the Vivid Azalea shade. So it's kind of blending with a blush, and it looks like I'm wearing a luminous blush rather than a highlighter. I have a tendency to really like that pop on the tops of my cheekbones. And so as beautiful as this packaging is, this isn't my favorite piece from the line. I think that this is just not a shade that flatters my skin tone too well, and I honestly am preferring the Natasha Denona I Need a New Nude highlighter to this one. I'm still not sorry I have it because it is so beautiful. You have to hold it to really understand. If you purchase this, I want to hear all about it. I want to hear your thoughts on this specific packaging and the highlighter itself. Again, it's a beautiful highlighter. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't emphasize texture. It doesn't have any glitter. It's very smooth. But I did apply it a little bit damp. I sprayed my face a little bit with setting spray so that I can get a slightly more bold look. Again, just because of the color. The formula is really good. So if you like a pinky champagne highlight, then you'll probably really love this one. I love it anyway just because looking at it brings me joy. But if I'm perfectly honest, it's not going to be one that I'm going to be reaching for a lot just because the color is just not my preference. That's everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this little peek at the collection, seeing the swatches, seeing the different eye looks that I created. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know which was your favorite. And if you picked up any of these items, I would love to hear how you're getting along with them. If you're curious about any other products that I'm wearing on my face, I'm going to link those in the description box down below so that you can check those out. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you join my makeup family, as well as joining me over on Instagram, where I've been sharing a little bit more of my day-to-day and chit-chatting makeup with you a little bit more frequently. If you did enjoy today's video, please don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and share it with a fellow makeup lover or someone else who was interested in the Pat McGrath collection. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your day with me. I hope you're doing really, really well, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon on my next one. Bye-bye.